another edition of Kyimya'yaih Fashion. My name is Kim, and on today's episode I'll be showing you how to make this drawstring skirt from an upcycle gown that I picked from my mom's giveaway. So she was about to give away this gown and I really liked the fabric, so I picked it up and decided I was going to make a skirt from it, and I decided to make this drawstring skirt with a little bit of cutout on the side. So sit back, relax, and get your paper and tools ready before we start making our skirts. So here's the original gown that I decided to use. It's a really lovely fabric. I really like the fabric. It looks like something that will last, and I really like to make things that I know I can keep and wear over and over again. That's why I decided to make a skirt with it. So yes, this is the fabric. It has this really chiffony kind of feel. It's light, it's not heavy, and so I know that I can make something really nice and wear it over and over again. Okay, so tools: I have my paper, I have my ruler, I have my semi-pattern master, my tape, my marker, and of course my paper scissors. So first of all, I'm going to start by drawing a straight line at the top of my paper. This is going to stand as my waistline. On the line, I'm going to be marking a cutout of my waist measurement, 1 inch for my dart and 1 inch for my sewing allowance. So I'm going to be adding 2 inches after marking a quarter of my waist measurement. Next, I'm going to be marking 9 inches downwards for my hip line, and I'm going to square it out from my center front. And on my hip line, I'm going to be marking a quarter of my hip circumference measurements, and then I'll add 1 inch for my sewing allowance also. So initially I had done the curve from the waistline to the hip line wrongly, so I had to cancel it and redo that. Now the same measurement I have on my hip line is going to be the same measurement I'm going to be marking at the end of my paper, and I've marked it, and I'm going to just draw a straight line from my hip line downwards. Now the paper is not long enough to be for my skirts, but when I come to cut out the skirt, I'm going to extend the length of my skirts on the fabric since my paper is not long enough. Next, I'm going to be marking my dart, which is going to be a quarter of my waist measurement divided by 2. So I'm going to divide that by 2, and then I'm going to place that same measurement on my hip line so I can draw a straight line from my waistline to my hip line. Then I'll mark my dart length, which is going to be 5.5 inches. That's my dart length. Now remember, the measurement on my waist for my dart is 1 inch, so I'm going to be marking half an inch on both sides of this line to create my dart legs, which I'm going to be connecting to the head of my dart. Now you can choose to make your skirt without a dart. That is actually an option, but personally I just like to add darts to skirts. So the next thing that I've done is to drop down 0.5 inch on the center front of my waist. I just dropped it down by 0.5 inches so that I can have a nice curve on the front of my pattern for my skirt. Finally, I'm just going to be adding 0.5 inches on the waist of my dart as my sewing allowance. Since I've already added sewing allowance on my side seam, I'm going to just add sewing allowance at the top of my pattern before I cut it out. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is to draft out the pattern for my back, which I've already done. I've already traced out my back pattern for my skirt with just a few differences that compared to the front. So my waistline is going to be straight at the back. It's not going to have that curve that I have in front. My dart length is 5 inches at the back instead of 5.5 in front, and I also have 1 inch allowance from the center back line, which is going to serve as my zip allowance. Another little adjustment I'm going to be making is that on my waistline, I'm going to be marking in by 0.5 inches and I'll mark down by 4 inches. Now, this is exactly what I did. I just created a curve at the center back of my skirt so that it can lap really nicely on my body and just follow that curve that's around your back, you know, that nice curve. So 0.5 inches from the center front on the waistline sorry, and then 4 inches from the waistline downwards towards your hip line, just 4 inches, and then you just create a curve and join those 2 points. So I have both patterns ready and I have gone ahead to cut them out on my fabric, making sure that I pinned them like gradually because the fabric is really light and flowy. I pinned them, and I also have pieces that I've just shown you, pieces that I'm going to be using to create my ropes and of course my waistband. I'm also just notching my darts so that I can actually be able to sew it later. I'm just notching the dart legs, and I've also notched the point where my zip is going to be, so I know exactly where I'm sewing. Now I've gone ahead to also transfer the head of my dart, which is the pointy part of the dart. So I actually just put a pin through that on my pattern paper and pulled out the pattern paper so that the pin will stick on my fabric. And what I'm doing now is just marking the points where my dart head is going to be, that has been pointed to me out by my pin, of course. Then I'm going to just fold it. I'm going to fold by joining my 2 dart legs for each side and then just holding the head point of my darts, and then I'll just pin. I'll do this for all of my darts, like for the 2 darts in front and for also the 2 at the back of my skirt. Now I have pieces of fabric here that I'm going to be using to create my rope, so I'm going to just fold it this way and I'm going to sew it, creating a little tunnel which I'm going to turn inside out. So I have this metal thingy that I got from my days working at KTFM. Yes, I used to be an OAP, go figure. Okay, so yes, I got this from Amedu, shout out to Amedu, and I use it most of the time for this exact thing, just to turn my ropes. And here I have it, a really nice neat rope which I'm going to be using to be my drawstring basically. So I've already gone ahead to sew my darts, and I am going to be pinning my side seams so that I can just have it really easy when I want to sew. So my side seams, I'm going to be sewing them at 1 inch, which I have already done. Yes, my videos seem to be really fast. If you have an issue with how fast my videos are, please let me know so that I will just make them a bit more detailed, a bit more like showing you how to do the sewing part and stuff if you have an issue with it. But yes, I already sewn the sides. For one side, my side that's going to have a drawstring, I left it open I left a slit open, which is going to also help with the drawstring. So for my cutout, which you really don't need to, you don't have to create a cutout, but I just decided to do a cutout last minute. So it's going to be 2 by 2 inches, and by the time I'm done sewing, I'm going to be having 2.5, which is going to end up being 5 inches for the width, and about 2.5 inches for the depth. So this is me just cutting out my cutout, and I'm going to be using a bias tape to just hem and make that place neat. Also not forgetting that I'm going to be sewing that same side to create the tunnel for my ropes. Okay, so I've sewn the tunnel for my ropes and I've already inserted the rope. Also, again, if you feel like my videos are a bit too not as detailed as you would like, please let me know so that I can make them more detailed. So I just created this tunnel for my ropes. I just made it one rope, instead of making it like two separate ropes. I just made it one rope just for the fun of it. Yeah, you can decide to make two ropes. So I also have a slit. My slit is quite long, but I mean it's a straight skirt, so it's not really very tight and all of that. So next thing I'm going to do is to be creating my waistband to just add to my skirt, and then I'm going to be inserting my zipper. So I have this strip of fabric here which I'm going to be using for my waistband. It's about 2.5 inches width, and then the length is 29 inches, which is my waist circumference plus 1 inch, just so I can sew the sides. I'm going to be ironing interfacing, aka haystay, on the fabric, so that on the lining, so that I will be able to control the fabric more, because it's really slippery and it's really light, so I need a stabilizer. That's why I'm using the haystay. So I've ironed haystay on my waistband, and I'm just pinning it here starting from the middle. The reason why I'm pinning it is so that I can be able to figure out exactly where my cutout is. So I'm going to be measuring 5 inches for my cutout on the waistband, so 5 inches, and then I'm going to be marking the starting point of my cutout on the waistband, so where my cutout starts and where it ends, so that I can just sew that place and just have like a neat finish there before I come around to just attach the band to the skirt. You're going to see what I mean in a minute. So yeah, this is what I wanted to achieve with just making sure that I knew where my cutouts were starting, so that I can just finish off that edge really nicely. You won't see any seam hanging out, and then I'll just pin the rest of my band throughout my skirt to where my zipper ends, where my zipper starts, basically. And I'm just notching this place so that I will know exactly where I'm going to sew. So this is my waistband pinned to my skirt, and because of the magic of technology, voila, my skirt is done. Yes, so I have top stitched the waistband so that it should just not move, and then I have already inserted my zipper. The last thing I'm going to do is just to just hand stitch hook and eye on my waistband, so that it just makes sure that I have that really nice tuck in look on my waistband. So I have my hook and eye inserted, and this is it. My skirt is done, and I am super happy, and I just want you to see what it looks like. And believe me when I say I rocked my skirt immediately I was done with it. Like, I was super happy with it. So that's it for today's tutorial. Thank you for being a part of it, and thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please make sure you do, and please make sure you also always leave a comment on what you would like me to make, or a suggestion, or anything you would like me to know. Thank you so much again for watching. See you next time. Bye.